Hey there, it's Sam at Mesa Properties, and today in this video, I want to talk to you about something that will come as no surprise to you if you're a landlord in California, and that is that it seems like it's really expensive to be a landlord in California. And that's a question that I want to ask and then hopefully provide an answer to of is it really more expensive now to be a landlord than it has been in the past? And if it is, what should we do about it? That's what I want to show you, and I've got some slides here to kind of go through with you. And there's my question. Is it becoming more expensive to be a landlord? Everything just feels like it's more expensive. And so you should ask the question, is it still worth it to own property in California? And that's what we want to answer. So the first thing here is that repairs and renovations absolutely do cost more. I have a chart here to show you that is construction inflation from 2001 up until today. And you can see, I really want to focus like 2011 to 2013 kind of in here. Things were pretty flat. And then you see we just absolutely took off to where we are now. And we're basically twice as expensive. And the data backs that up from what we've got. Here's a 2013 estimate from one of our contractors who we actually still work with, believe it or not. And you can see he was charging for interior two-tone whole house paint. This isn't your just tape it up and spray it down guy. This is good quality, different color paint, meaning the trim is different than the walls and so on. 2,600 bucks. I don't have the square footage of this house on here for you, but I will tell you that this exact same house, when we quoted it, would be about double that. It'd be about $4,500 to $5,000 to do this exact same thing. You can see blinds in an entire house were 550 bucks. We just did shades in a house on about 10 windows, and it was about $2,000. Now, shades are a little bit nicer than blinds, but this price would be significantly higher. 3 smoke detectors, a carbon, an air filter, door stoppers for 75 bucks. That's it. That's would be so much more now. A smoke detector is like 40 to 50 bucks, and there's multiple of those in the house. So this price right here would be definitely double. I won't go through the rest of these. You can, if you want to pause the video here and kind of take a look at this and reminisce from when the good old days when things were a little bit cheaper. What I will tell you though is that the rent was a lot cheaper on this house back then. So the reason that I show you this, and I'm going to go back to this same exact chart, is this chart is accurate. And that's not, I didn't give you a ton of data, but you'll just have to trust me from what I showed you and what we are seeing, that this chart is completely accurate. This is what we're seeing, roughly double prices. The other thing that you need to keep in mind that you already know if you've had a renewal recently on your insurance is that premiums are going up. More than double a lot of the times. We're talking like triple prices, depends on where you are. And rents are stable. Rents are not going up at the same rate that all of these things are happening. So as things are getting more expensive, your rent is not going up as quickly, even though every tenant will tell you that the rent is way too high. It's not going up as quickly to match all of these increases in prices. So here's the median rental price in Upland. You can see from last year versus this year, we're actually at a lower point now than we were at this point last year in Upland. Our other office, Victorville, roughly the same. It's tracking. You can see it fluctuated quite a bit more, at least last year. This year, we're a little bit more stable, but we're roughly at the same place that we were last year. You see this dip around the holidays. That's totally normal. That also backs up something we tell our owners, that it's harder to rent a house during the holidays. So rent prices are stable. They're not going up. I want to focus on the good news as well, which is that appreciation is also going crazy and has gone crazy since this time frame, 2011, 2013 or so. Here's a similar chart. It looks, I don't know, almost identical to our cost chart on construction. It's going up over time. It spiked during COVID. You can see that data there. This was during the interest rate super low time where basically everybody refinanced into a sub 3% loan. And taxes are also low. And I'm talking generally speaking, in California, your property taxes are lower than they are in other parts of the country. Here is a quick grab from a news site talking about in Illinois where homeowners saw the largest property tax increase in 30 years. You can't say that in California. You're limited by Prop 13 to that 2% increase per year. But again, this is good news. That's not how it works in California. Your property taxes are predictable and low. Also, most of you, as I mentioned before, refinance your mortgage in the COVID era, and you have a sub 3% loan or at least a sub 4% loan. And that's fantastic. We may never see that again. And a lot of you also went back into a 30-year fixed, and so you've got lots more time on that. This might seem like a weird one to say. We've also got good weather, but we go to a lot of conferences. We have relationships with property managers in other parts of the country, and they get absolutely hammered by weather, by rain, flood, tornadoes. There's all kinds of stuff that just tears houses up. And yes, they have insurance for those types of things, but a lot of times they are not covered by insurance, or they have to go through all the hassle still, and you don't have that here. So again, I asked that question, is it becoming more expensive to be a landlord? The answer is absolutely yes. And so what can you do? I want to give you a few tips for success. While remembering the good news that you've had appreciation, you've got low interest rate, you've got good weather, I want to give you some tips. You need to be prepared for less rent increases in the next few years. We're not going to be reaching out and telling you, hey, we can raise the rent, up to 10%. It's going to be less. You may have oftentimes for the 2023 leases that are now being renewed in 2024, we're not recommending any rent increase, because we don't just have a built-in every year we go 3%, 5%, whatever. We do a market analysis on every single property and make a recommendation based on the market condition. And the market condition for a lot of these houses, as I showed you with that chart, does not support a rent increase. So we're keeping rents the same. You also need to be budgeting and saving. Don't run lean and use all of your rental income for disposable expenses. You need to be saving that so that when you have a vacancy, you're prepared for these double prices. If you haven't had a turnover in 5 years before COVID, you are in for a shock if you're not paying attention and understanding what things cost now. And if you think, oh, 5 to 10 grand is going to get me through a 5-year tenant, it's just not. You need to be ready for 10 to 15,000, potentially more, depending on what kind of work you want to do. And don't forget to zoom out. Don't just look at how is my year. It's really easy as a landlord, especially when you have a lot of expenses close together, to go, this just doesn't make sense. It's too expensive. You need to zoom out, look at what's the appreciation been like? What's the rental income over time been? A lot of your houses are aging, especially if you own property in the high desert. They're 30, 40 years old now and everything's starting to go bad. That's just part of owning an older home. Your home is not new anymore and it's needing things to be replaced. So you need to look at it over time. You need to also look into the future and say, okay, if I were to do all of these upgrades and make all of these changes and fix all these things up, how much longer is that going to last? And what are future years going to look like? So you need to zoom out, look at appreciation, analyze your rental property's performance over more than just this month or even this year. Look at it over the last 5 years, 4 years, however long you've owned it, and say, is this still a good investment? And what we have found, for ourselves included, since we own rental property and are also experiencing all of these increased prices just like you are, what we have found is that 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. It still makes sense. We think it's going to make sense in the future, but you need to be planning, you need to be doing these things. And that's what we're here to try to help you with, to educate you on this, to show you what we're seeing in the market, and to try to help you be a successful landlord. So hopefully that's helpful. Yes, prices are going up. Still a great time to be a landlord in California. And hopefully with these tips, you can be set up for success for many more years to come.